Okay. Hey, wifeys. Hey, happy Wednesday. Yes. So, welcome to Keeping It Real with Wifey, with your founder, Mrs. Keisha Betts, and our licensed marriage and family therapist, Mrs. Shamitria Yeager. So, welcome everyone. Welcome, Mrs. Yeager, Ruth, I would say. Um, so thank all those wifeys that's joining in today, taking the time out to listen to our discussion. Um, this is very real. It's not script. It's a discussion we're wanting to elaborate on with challenging wifeyhood and submission. So let's get started. Yes. So, Shamitra, I'll let you get started first. We know that in the new world we live in today, that submission is a big issue for new wifeys, even those wifeys that's been married for a few years. That's something that we seem to struggle with very often. So,
Mhm.
um, give us some input. Let's
Mhm.
get to the reason why it may be hard for us as wifeys to struggle with being in the submission stage of our marriage, especially in the beginning. And some of us still struggle with it. So, um,
Right. Yeah, you're absolutely right. I guess we're just gonna just dive right on in, huh?
yes, yes, yes.
Yeah, okay. Well, I'll just share my input, not as a professional right now, not as a clinician, you
Right.
know, marriage or family therapist, just as a wife, and as a woman who understand, some of the fears and misconception of submission. Um, and so what I think it is it's just that misunderstanding, right? Like
Yeah.
the the understanding that submission means control or to be
Yeah.
controlled.
Yeah.
And just speaking as an African American woman, who um, feels strong and educated and independent minded, looking at submission from that standpoint of, okay, now I have to be controlled or obey, somebody or my husband's wishes
Yeah.
and desires. And so I think that's scary. I think a lot of women, um, are misinformed or have that misunderstanding when it comes to submission. And so, yeah, it's a scary thing because we are, women, strong minded women in our
Right.
way, in a
Mhm.
sense. And so nobody wants to enter into a relationship where they feel inferior, or they feel
Oh,
like they're a
yeah.
child, and have to, jump to the beat of someone else's drum, you know.
Right. Right. Um, I know for me, submission was challenging in the beginning
Mhm.
because not just for myself, but I'm also speaking for other wives where it was challenging for them because you feel like you have to let all your independence go, right? Like you have to let all your independence go, or maybe you haven't seen how to submit the right way, right? Like you haven't seen what is the value of you submitting to your husband, right? Because God created us to be what a suitable helper to our husbands.
Mhm.
And some of us may not understand the true meaning behind it. And I would say, especially because maybe they haven't seen it before, right?
Mhm.
Or maybe they have seen it, but it wasn't seen in all the right reasons
Mhm.
of being in the submissive stage.
Yeah.
So I think that plays, a major
Mhm.
role in a woman wanting to submit to her husband and
Mhm.
kind of not wanting to, right?
Mhm.
But it tells us, if our husbands are leading in the right direction, and they are putting God first above
Mhm.
them and above us,
Mhm.
then we should be able to submit,
Yeah.
right? Then see the beauty out of us being in submission, right? Because it's only going to make us as a woman, from me being, with my husband for what, 22 years. I think it only made me stronger, right? It made me stronger, and it helped to develop the wifey and the woman that I am today, by knowing that, okay, God asked me to be a wifey for a reason, and He wants me to be, you know, s- give my rights as a wifey to be in that submission stage to my husband, right? So it was challenging, but at the end, I can say it was rewarded. Yeah, I feel rewarded. I do feel valued for allowing me to not want to do it, then get on board with it, and then really pray about it, and then read about it. So
Yeah.
that way I know how to be a good helper to my husband. It ain't easy. It's not easy. I'm gonna tell you the truth. It's not easy, but you
Yeah.
know, um, it's the beauty behind it,
Yeah.
is what I can say.
And you touched on so much with just what you shared, right? Because we're just really just talking about, the misunderstanding of submission and how it's perceived.
Right.
Like you said, maybe it wasn't modeled in a way, in a
Hmm.
healthy way, where we felt like submission was this beautiful thing to be a part of. Maybe it was modeled in our household where we had an abusive father, or someone who
Hmm.
ruled with an iron fist, right? Or
Right.
um, someone who just didn't value their wife's input, or the wife wasn't
Right.
even allowed to really share and play a role in the decision making, or the
Mhm.
direction of the family.
Right.
And a lot of that is what we see in marriages today. It's like what we bring into our marriage, what
Right.
was fostered in us, in our environment growing up as a child, or the things that we witnessed. And so if we did not have a healthy representation of that, and we did come from that type of background, then yeah, who wants to look forward to a life of submission that looks like that, right?
Right.
And so it's understanding, like you said, the beauty of submission, the art of submission, how God intended submission to
Right.
be. And so when you think about what submission really is, submission is it's just it's just honoring God, right?
That's all it is. Yep.
That's that's all it is.
Truly is.
It's a trusting relationship
Right.
between you, your husband, and God. And if you're equally yoked, and we've talked about this off,
Mm.
off
Yes. Yep.
before that,
Yep.
you have to be equally yoked, which means
Have
like
to.
you have to have an understanding of your
Yes.
husband's walk with God, and you have to be strong in your walk with God as well. And
Right.
together, you have to know where you're going, right? And
You do.
understand that um, you're one flesh. You're joined and you're connected in this walk with God. With God
Yes.
being the head of your life, and with
Yes.
God intending the husband to wear the crown and be the head of his
His home.
family,
His
and
family.
love in love, as
Yep.
God loved the church. That's written. Um,
Yes, it
and
is.
that's a beautiful thing, right? The way that God loves the church, the way that God
Yes.
loves us, that's how he should love his wife, which means that he values everything about his wife. He values her
Everything.
input, he values her opinions, he
Hmm.
values her desires, and he
Yes.
wants to use all these things in the best interest of the family as a whole,
Yep.
right? To be
Yep.
able to lead and to be able to guide the family towards, the vision, the God's vision
Yeah.
of the family.
Yeah.
And I think if we overlook that very important piece of submission, that
Yeah.
God intended submission to be an act of love and ownership, honoring each other through marriage, then yeah, we will miss out on the beauty of it. And
Absolutely.
uh, we know without order, there's what's the opposite of order? Chaos.
Right.
This
Chaos. Chaos.
this
Yeah.
organization, and so when we think of leadership in our household, we have to think of who are we trusting to lead.
Yeah.
Who are we trusting to lead? And so sometimes I think that's also a fear, since we're talking about the fears and the misconceptions of submission. It's a fear that, is my husband capable of leading? Like, can he do this job? Like, can I really trust that I can
Him
take
to,
his hands off the wheel?
right,
Right?
yes, yep, that's the next thing I was gonna say, um, what if husband is not leading the household the right way, right?
Mm,
That's a whole different topic.
it
What do
is.
you do, right? And then what if you're that spiritual woman that's like, okay, well, let me take on ownership and let me lead my household, and then you follow,
Ooh, yeah. All right. And I'm glad you said that. But
you
what
know?
that's saying is that, okay, God, I don't trust you.
Exactly. Yes.
I don't trust you, and I don't trust this marriage because
Hmm.
my husband has failed us in this way, and now I have to take over. So I think that, and I'm gonna speak for myself because I'm a I'm a praying woman. And like I
Right.
told you before, submission wasn't really hard for me because I was able to see the process,
The
uh,
process. Yeah.
God working through my husband prior to us getting married, and I knew that God had
Right.
his hand in it. So it was easier for me to say, "Okay, God, I'm trusting you in this thing. Like you have this." And so there's been many times where my husband has come with this, because he's the doer and I'm a thinker, right? So
Yeah.
he's like,
Okay.
he's an idea,
Do
and
it.
he's, we're going to do this, and this is going to look like
Yeah.
this, blah blah blah. And sometimes in those moments when I find myself not agreeing or not being in alignment with my husband's vision, I have to uh, take some time and talk to God and pray about
You
it,
pray about it. Yes.
so that
Yeah.
I can know how to share, my input in a way that doesn't make him feel belittled, or doesn't,
Right.
make him feel like he's incapable of
Right.
making a decision. And then I
Yeah.
have to remind myself that, like, my husband is not working for himself in this
It's-
dynamic. Like, his vision is big. His vision is for the family, but maybe
Right.
the way that he's going about it in this moment, I may not be in agreement. And so when he's like gun ho on a decision that I don't really support, or really, I'm kind of
Right.
skeptical
So
about,
we have just a few questions about
yeah,
this. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
always finish with this. I ask him this question, and then I leave it alone because I'm trusting in God. I ask him, have you prayed about it?
Mm. Yes.
Have you prayed about this? And
Yes.
if
Yes.
so, what did God tell you to do?
Yeah.
Because I have to keep in mind that since he is the head of the household, God gives him certain, um he gives him a vision that may not be my own. So I have to trust
You have to
that.
trust that vision that God has given to him because he gave
Exactly.
it to him for a reason,
There
right?
you go.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Right.
And so, yeah, so if you're a woman of God, and you have that faith, then you know that God is working through your husband. It's like, okay, if my husband don't got it, God got
God
us.
has
You
it.
know,
Right.
He got us. And so I'm okay. And so I don't have to find myself pushing my husband out of the way because I feel like my way, my opinion, or the way
Hmm.
that I do things, or I have the degrees. So I'm the better decision making. Like,
Right.
I can push myself out of the way and allow
Hmm.
my husband to be the man that God created him to be in our family.
Right.
And that's what strengthens
Yeah.
his ability to believe in himself and to be more competent in his decision making.
Right. Yes.
You know,
Yes. And to have a stronger foundation in your marriage and in your household. Right.
exactly.
Um,
Yeah.
yes, that's amazing. That's like the jewel part of it. What you just said. Um, because it's real, So
Hmm.
um submission is a good thing, Um, at the end, overall, I can say that, me learning how to submit to my husband,
Hmm.
it like I said, it allowed me to be a better individual, a better woman, a better wifey. And I always did let him, always lead our family, But like you said, when I don't trust one part of it, I have to pray about it and be like, okay, God, let just let him do what he's doing, long as it's going the way that you align him to do it, I should be
Mhm.
okay with it,
That's
right?
right. Yeah.
So,
Hmm.
um, at the end of our discussion today, wifeys, what I can say in my closing remarks is that submission is powerful, right? It's a powerful thing to do. It's beauty behind it. You have to know the purpose, the reason behind submitting to your husband. You're not just submitting to your husband, but you're submitting to a gift that God has created for us to do. And it's great, it's beautiful to do that and honor what God wants in our marriages today, as a wife, as a husband, building a family, having a solid foundation in our home, allowing our kids in this generation now to know what marriage is about, what submission is about, and what wifeyhood is all about, because it's different now. And that's my closing remarks in reference to challenging wifeyhood and submission. Um, Shamisha, you want to close this out with a remark?
Yeah. So I just want to say, and I know there's so this is like one of those topics that there are so many layers to. It's
Mhm.
multifaceted, and so one of the things that I say that I challenge the wives that are listening to really just look into yourself, do some introspection, and see what is your reservations about submission. And so sometimes it can be our individual challenges and struggles that we need to just work through and go to
Right.
God with. Maybe we were exposed to trauma. Maybe we had an abusive or controlling relationship, or maybe
Relationship.
we have so many insecurities and trust issues that we can allow God to work in our lives and in our relationships in a way that is healthy and that is
Right.
productive. And so do your own work. And when you do that, you find that there's something there, there's a conversation that you have to have with your husband, because
Right.
it is something that he's making that's triggering you, or he's making you feel uncomfortable about submission. Then
Right.
sit down, and talk about it, or go to your spiritual counselor or whomever, and work through it, because you're missing out. God
Yeah.
blesses order, and that's what submission is. And so I pray that all of the wifeys and husbands can see the art and the beauty of it, and
Yes. Yes.
have a healthy relationship moving forward.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Well, wifeys, once again, thank you for tuning in and keeping it real with us today on challenging wifeyhood and submission. Leave any comments below. Give us your feedback. We're here to, accept feedback. Let us know what you're thinking about the word submission. Other than that, we want you to have a blessed and happy Wifey Wednesday. Remember, this is your day to celebrate you. Whatever your heart desire today, do it because we deserve that day. Right.
Yeah.
So, thank you again, Wifey Shamitria, and we look forward to the third Wednesday of April.
Mhm.
Um, Back again with Keeping It Real with Wifeys, and enjoy your day. Bye.